morning, everybody. Welcome to the University of Houston downtown. We have so many folks from outside the university visiting here, so we give you a big grand welcome to our beautiful campus. Interesting day with weather and traffic situations, so I'm glad everybody has made it, and I'm sure that we might catch a few more people. But my name is Jason Brown. I'm the Vice President for Advancement in University Relations here at UHD, and it is truly an honor to welcome you to today's President's Lecture Series as we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. At UHD, the President's Lecture Series serves as an important forum that brings together our campus and community to engage in meaningful conversations about leadership, culture, public service, and the issues shaping our society today. As one of the most diverse universities in the nation, we are proud to create spaces where stories are shared, perspectives are valued, and dialogues help strengthen understanding across communities. Today's featured program, Legacy and Leadership, featuring Harry G. Jr. and his children, is a powerful reflection of those values. This special conversation celebrates the remarkable journey of one of Houston's great immigration attorneys, Harry G. Jr. and his family, exploring themes of resilience, service, and family legacy. Their story reminds of profound contributions Asian American and Pacific Islander families continue to make to Houston, to our nation, and to the communities they serve. Before we continue, I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to the American Leadership Forum, who many of the members are here today, and their alumni for their partnership and continued leadership in bringing communities together through their dialogue, civic engagement, and helping us promote the importance of this special event. We're especially grateful to CEO Nori Angel and Sarah Wyndham for their collaboration and support of UHD. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank the one and only Donna Cole. I don't know if Donna's here in the room yet. She's not here yet, so she's here in spirit. She'll get here. All right. Donna Cole, who's an extraordinary business leader, philanthropist, and a wonderful friend to the University of Houston downtown. So Donna, thank you so much. We'll thank her again before we close the program. But now it's my great honor to introduce the interim president of the University of Houston downtown, Dr. Deborah Bordelon, who is a dedicated educator and leader who spent her career championing student success, access, and educational excellence. Please join me in welcoming Interim President Dr. Deborah Bordelon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to have everyone here today. As Interim President of the University of Houston Downtown, it is my distinct honor to continue our President's Lecture Series and to welcome you to our third installment for 2026, Legacy and Leadership, featuring Harry G. Jr. and his children. As always, our President's Lecture Series aims to bring about thought-provoking content from informed guests who inspire and motivate us through their everyday work, ongoing service, and evidence of resilience. Here in Houston, where diversity is truly one of our city's hallmarks, we celebrate the rich contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to our history, cuisine, businesses, scholarship, and culture. Our panelists today represent a rich lineage of profound impact. Here to introduce them, and we're just so excited to have Ms. Nancy J. Lee here to moderate today's discussion, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ms. Lee before we get started. Ms. Lee is the co-founder and president of Royal Education Foundation. After growing up in the Cultural Revolution in China, a period during which colleges were closed for 10 years, Ms. Lee seized the opportunity for higher education when local universities opened again. The years of hardship during her childhood shaped her into an advocate for public education, higher education access, and global leadership development. In a volunteer capacity, Ms. Lee served as a board of trustee for Houston Holocaust Museum, board chair for the U.S.-China People's Friendship Association, vice chairman of the International World War II Museums Alliance, advisory board member for St. Thomas University, chair of the OCA Houston Advisory Board, and trustee of the American Leadership Forum. And there's more. Ms. Lee serves as Vice Chair of Houston Mayor John Whitmire's Asian American Pacific Islander Advisory Board and is an Outreach Committee member from the Harris County District Attorney's Office. Ms. Lee, we are so honored to have you here with us today. Mr. G and family, we're just thrilled to have you here. So I will turn the conversation over to you, Ms. Lee. It is in your hands.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President. Good morning, everyone. It's such a great honor to be here and for the opportunity to share the story of the Asian Americans. Before we begin the conversation with Harry G. Jr. and his remarkable children, I would like I made a few slides for our audience to understand quickly of the background of Asian American history. So this diagram is just to talk briefly about the G family and also the other Asian American come to United States. What happened is in 19th century, because of the war, I think probably you know the Opium War, and poverty and political unrest, which is referred to the Boxer Rebellion. So many people left, millions of people left China, pursuing the opportunity and better future. So many of them went actually to South Asia, including Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore. But many, of course, come to United States. And among them is G family. And the G came from the south side, Kaiping and Taishan area. And G actually in Chinese is same with Chu. Chu is the same character, Zhu, last name Zhu. So I just put a brief diagram here for Harry G. Senior, their family itself. So from here, you see that Harry G. Senior was born in Kaiping, Guangdong province, and he came to United States when he was 14 years old with borrowed money. And he worked as a dishwasher and laborer and worked very, very hard, 14, 16 hours a day. And he suffered a lot of discrimination, humiliation, because you remember that's the last dynasty of China, Qing dynasty. And he still had the braid hair in the long queue, so people humiliate and call him chink. Anyway, he worked very hard and accumulated his money and went to Michigan and settled down in New Orleans and opened his own business, the restaurant. And he was very smart. You can tell from their descendant, he was visionary and smart. And then he knew that something economically happened in Houston. So in 1930s, he came down Houston and opened restaurant. And the first one, famous one, a China Clipper. And later on, they just have more business, very, very well-known Chinese Village, China Star, etc. On the social life, he engaged in the community, helping others with the job opportunity and helping them establish the life in this new country and new land. And so he also played the leading role in the association, the Chinese association called Online Merchants Association, now actually as CACA. So the legacy he left behind him was hard work, family unity, community service, and the opportunity for others. So G family is remarkable, not only because their tremendous accomplishment professional accomplishment and business success. But what makes more sense is their strong sense of unity and community through across generations. See, this is the example that how many GEs in Houston, Texas, and affect our life. And the one typical, not only Harry G and his children, but the family also had the first Asian American state representative, Martha Wang, in Texas. So many others, and either the entrepreneur or community leader or educator, etc. So it's our honor to hear directly from Harry G. Jr. and his extraordinary children and about their journey, family journey, values, and legacy. So let's, I have to see, because I prepare, thank John to prepare the questions. So we start with Harry first. So can you share your father's journey and how he helped create opportunities for many family members or non-blood relatives?
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for the comprehensive research on our family. I found out facts that I was not previously aware. But I did want to thank the University of Houston downtown for sponsoring this event with the Asian community and giving us the opportunity to share some of our experiences with the broader community here. And so thank you, U of H downtown, for y'all's support in this regard. I would like to share with you the fact that ours is a very international family. My wife is from Germany. I'm from China. My eldest, my son, has married a young lady of Filipino heritage. Our youngest, Sonia, has married a young man from Mexico. Our middle daughter, who's a little bit late today, she really went foreign on us. She married a young man from East Texas. We've been very blessed to have had the opportunity to be here in Houston, where the communities have been very inclusive. We visit with our friends and around the country and find out that they've encountered significant discrimination during their growth years. Simple things like riding the bus. A friend from San Antonio indicated that he could not sit down until the bus driver gave him authorization, and sometimes the bus drivers were very mean and did not give such authorization. So he grew up in that atmosphere or attitude. In Houston, I had to use public transportation, rode the bus, and did not encounter those particular events and circumstances. Partially, I think, because Houston has had an international flavor from the transaction import-export business, where we sold cotton and rice throughout the rest of the world, and then also the people in the oil patch, as they began to expand, they dealt with people around the world. So all of these areas and experiences, I think, lent to the Houston attitude and approach in which they accepted people on a much more broader basis in that regard. But the U.S. immigration law was still discriminatory. It turns out that when we arrived here in 1941, the immigration laws precluded Chinese from immigrating to America. They were the only country in the world that was precluded. It was a Chinese Exclusion Act that was enacted in the 1880s that precluded the Chinese from immigrating to the United States. It was during World War II that when the United States was as an ally with China, in fighting in the Far East that they changed the law upon the request of Madam Chiang Kai-shek. So they eliminated the Chinese Exclusion Act, but what it did is it gave the Chinese the opportunity to immigrate for up to a limit of 100 per year. So, but that was the requirement for many of the countries around the world until the immigration law changed in 1965.
You were born in China, and 2.5 years old you came here, join your father. When your father already have a solid business, but you still work very hard in the restaurant until the high school. Instead of taking over your father's business, you pursue the career in law, and particularly immigration law. So what inspired you to do that?
Well, it turns out that typical of the immigrants, our families offered the opportunity to work. When I was in the 7th grade, they started me working at the restaurant. Actually, my father had several restaurants. One of them was the China Star restaurant on Main Street. And so when we immigrated, there was the Chinese Village that was on Telephone Road. That was a drive-in, one of the very first drive-ins in America. Turns out that I found out that working in a restaurant meant long hours, working on weekends. That was not attractive to me. And we wanted to go ahead and look for a better life. The opportunity of being an attorney, it turns out that my grandfather on my mother's side was a scribe in the village. He had enough competency and capability that he would write letters for villagers and charge a nominal fee for that service. It turns out that tragically he was addicted to opium and could not hold down a regular job. My mother was the eldest of 7 sisters. Grandpa gave up after 7 and adopted a son and carry on the family name. But yes, we found out that the work at the restaurant progressed from, I started out working in the kitchen, worked as a dishwasher, waited tables, also subsequently was managing the restaurant when I was in high school, and would go to the restaurant after school and would prepare the menu and work out all the problems and issues that would resolve during that. So I found out that those long hours were not of great interest to me, and I felt that we had to pursue some other career, some other opportunity. The field of law, I think, for my grandfather being the scribe in the village, my father served as president of the Onliang Chinese Merchants Association here in Houston, and as such served the Chinese community. So through those particular opportunities, we observed from our family lineage the engagement and involvement with the broader community, and I guess it sort of naturally follows now with myself and then my children and their engagement in the community as well.
Thank you, Harry. Before we continue the conversation, I want to give a recognition of Donna Cole, the instrumental person that make this event possible. And I'll give a few minutes for Harry to take a break, and I'll just next question to Sanya. Watching your father as a parent and a community leader, what influenced you to choose, to make decision on your educational and professional path?
Yeah, so growing up, seeing the impact Dad was making, not only through his work as a law immigration attorney, but perhaps more so in the work that he did in our community to support others was really impactful, I think, on all of us. And I originally was going into a career actually in education. I ended up working in nonprofit. I lead a community-based nonprofit that supports, community members in gaining economic mobility and wraparound support services. And I often tell the story about my grandparents and how, they had a restaurant and they may not have had significant material wealth, but everything that they had, they used it to help others in the community. If somebody needed a job, they helped them through the restaurant. If somebody needed a place to stay in the back warehouse of their restaurant, when folks were coming back from serving from the war, they were there to give them a hand out, a hand up, and an opportunity. And so just creating spaces so folks in the community would have opportunities was something I think that we grew up seeing both from Dad as well as from our grandparents.
And
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that. I think one of those things you could grow up having experience but not really appreciating until later is when I was a young teenager, we would go to the dinners and stuff, and every now and again somebody would come up and go, "Oh, that's Harry G's grandson." And you didn't really appreciate what that meant, but then when you start hearing the stories about how they've helped so many people come on in so many different ways, it really touches you differently, and it's like, okay, now I got to do my part.
I'll share a funny story. So a game we used to play when we were kids. So, grew up, our grandparents had some of the first Chinese restaurants, and this was a time when people didn't know what Chinese food was, right? I mean, Houston was not diverse as it is today. You heard in an entire year, 100 Chinese were able to immigrate. So the Chinese community is very small. In fact, when Dad grew up here, Houston only had 250,000 people. So it was a small community, right? And very impactful in his work and leadership in the community. Whenever we were kids and we would go to a Chinese restaurant, so, in the 80s and 90s, Chinese food more popular, more mainstream. Dad, through his immigration work, actually helped most of the chefs and restaurant owners immigrate and do their immigration work. But our game that we would play as kids was, let's see, without fail, almost every time we would go to a Chinese restaurant, who's going to come up and say hello to Harry G? And it was funny to us, and I don't think to Andrew's point, when we were kids, it was kind of this game like, oh, we've made it halfway through our meal and no one has come up to say hello, Mr. G, and thank you. I'm going to get emotional about it, but later in your life, you recognize that every single person that was coming up was coming to say thank you because he helped to change their life. He helped to create pathways and opportunities. And the other thing I think that we learned as kids, I remember actually, we would go, on vacation wherever Dad would have a professional conference to go to, right? And it was mostly immigration law. And something that when I was a young kid, it was really interesting. We would meet all these attorneys. There was always a night that, the families would get together, and we would see attorneys that were women and people of color and that looked like all of our community. And honestly, it wasn't until I was older that I learned that these were attorneys that Dad knew because they were in the minority of the profession and they needed to work together to create opportunities for others. And, it really wasn't until the 1980s that Asian Americans were able to get jobs in major law firms. And so, Dad may not share the full story about that, but part of for him going into immigration law, and going out on his own and starting his own law firm is because when he graduated with a law degree from the University of Texas and applied to big law firms at the time, big law firms weren't ready to hire people that looked like him. And so really amazing for us as kids. I was telling the story about going to Chinese restaurants and always somebody who would walk up to Dad. And so a really incredible legacy, not only of a great career, but that he has spent his entire career and lifetime making sure that others had opportunities, especially in areas that he found barriers with in his life. So my sister's here too now. Yeah.
thank you. So Claudia is a little bit late, so we just talk about what Daddy impact you for your professional and educational path. Anything you want to add? Any moment that really impressed you most?
Yeah,
Sorry, apologies to everyone for running a few minutes late. I had to do mother duty and then struggled a little bit to find parking and then this room. So how has my father helped in my educational and professional career? And I hopefully I'm not being too repetitive of things that my brother and sister may have already expressed, since we all received a lot of the same wisdom and guidance. I think that one of the things that has always been a strong value of my father's that was incredibly impactful was the importance of education. And we certainly grew up in a time when education made a very strong difference in what your opportunities would be. And not only did our father set high expectations for us and really encourage us academically, but he really emphasized that and has been really supportive of others and giving more access to as many people as he's able to impact in accessing education and the opportunities that that affords. And I know that we certainly hope that as the future continues, that education continues to be a way to provide opportunities for people, even as our society and our world transforms. And so I think that was a really strong part of it. And then the other piece that I would say that is so very much our father is the ability to engage with lots of different people and to learn how to communicate. And he gave us a lot of opportunities as children, when he treated us like adults, to interact with other adults, to interact with people that maybe would have been outside of our comfort zone or outside of the circles that we would naturally walk in. And that was a really important opportunity for us to be able to learn to connect with so many different people, to learn to rise above where we maybe thought our station or our position was. And I think that that really impacted the way that I went forward in my career, and feeling like I could have a voice and learning to connect with lots of different people.
Thank you. We know that Asian American came to this land, pursue the opportunity and also the education. So through the education, they changed the life. And probably you don't know very well about their family, the business or the impact. And they're very low key, and not only on the business restaurant, the law practice. And the children, they all graduate from Rice, and Harry also from Rice for under, and then the law degree at UT Austin. And all three from Rice, right? Yeah, so the Rice alumni, we have Ping here. And they also participate or engage many others, including Texan, Harry, right? Texan or?
That's correct.
Yes, they're a big part of that too. So back to Harry. Your long practice begin with family members, relatives, and you grow into one of the most influential, respected law firm. Over decades in practice, what experiences most affirm you that you had chosen the right decision, right choice, profession? Any moment you want to share the most challenging thing that in your career?
Any moments?
Yeah, any moment, any example, moment?
Well, what I found out when I graduated from law school, I worked with the Attorney General's office in Austin, Texas for 2 years. And interesting enough, worked in this building when it was a warehouse and an office building before it became University of Houston downtown, and with the Attorney General's office. But when I went and wanted to practice law in Houston, where the roots and community were, I found out that the law firms had not yet hired any minorities. It was late 1960 before they changed, and the first black attorney was hired, and subsequently in the 70s, first Hispanic, and in the 80s, first Asian attorney in the big law firms here in town. So having no other option, I hung up my shingle and started practicing law and starved for 1 year. Turns out that I think we had income of $13,000 in the course of that 1 year. But we worked hard for the clients that came in. And I had the experience one of the Chinese grocers was needing a lease agreement. I worked it up, and when I computed the fees and the charges, I should be charging something on the order of about $600. It turns out that I'd never had a lease agreement done. When we completed with the individual, I told him, he asked how much I was charging. I told him $50. He was writing this check, and he was saying, boy, that's very reasonable. I would have thought that you would have charged at least $300. And I'm thinking, I let all that money fly out the window. But we persevered, and it turns out that I was doing a lot of domestic relations work, child custody, and also divorce cases. And I was referring the immigration cases to another attorney in town that had a specialty in immigration practice. And it turns out that the clientele that we had were mostly given to us by the the Houston Bar Association's lawyer referral service. It was unethical to solicit business at that time. The Supreme Court changed that with a new decision in the late 60s, early 70s. But before that time, there was not the advertising and the recruitment of clients by attorneys. So it was great for the person that was well established, but for somebody who was getting started, it was very difficult to get it started in terms of it. But what I didn't realize was in 1965, the immigration law changed. Congress changed the basis of the immigration, and it used to be essentially by virtue of the population of a country in the United States in the early 1900s, there was a proportionate, so most countries got 100 immigrants possible. Germany, Great Britain, Scotland, all of these countries got 30,000 immigrants coming to the United States. Well, they changed it to the point where all countries had an opportunity to send up to 20,000 people, but they had to qualify and had to contribute. One of the requirements was that they would not displace the U.S. worker and coming and getting a labor certification. That was a new procedure, and it was something that I studied and became expert in, and fortunately were able to succeed. I think I began to become an immigration practitioner when we had 2 PhDs from Rice University who were needed by an engineering firm, and we had the opportunity of representing them, and fortunately succeeded in gaining their immigration to the U.S. And through that opportunity, we were introduced to other companies and businesses that then enabled us to go ahead and develop a corporate business practice which significantly enhanced the income and the opportunities for myself and for the staff members in the office. So the immigration practice became specialized in the 1970s. We were instrumental and engaged in establishing board certification for immigration attorneys and also helping many of the people in the corporate business sector gain success.
Thank you, Harry. The next question for your children. Following the footsteps of such famous, respected father and the family legacy can be both inspiring and challenging. So, were there any obstacle or pressure along your own journey? and how did you navigate and overcome them? Andrew?
I think we were always exposed to what my parents have done and their accomplishments, their abilities. So I think the other part is probably genetic. It's like there's just the desire to do well, to help others and things. I've gone through that with my children. It's just like, I don't have to push them too hard. I've set the example, I give them opportunities, and for the most part, they're taking it. So I think we had a fair bit of that as far as how we got to where we are. But certainly, opportunities were provided to us, options were given to us, examples. I think that's really maybe one of the other really big parts that's often missing is you've got somebody right close up in front of you that's doing that, and you're going to go do what's right there. And I think just that combination has gotten us a long way.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely big shoes to fill, and as Andrew said, both of our parents set a really strong example of how to do that. And I think for me, I would say that it was more inspiring than challenging, and in part of that is also because there was openness by my parents for us to explore what we wanted to explore, to achieve what we wanted to achieve, to discover our own individual capabilities, and to search and pursue that. And so there wasn't a specific path that we had to follow, and there wasn't a specific expectation other than do our best and be true to who we are. And that really gave us, I think, more of a launching board to do that. So one followed in the footsteps very grandly, and two decided to move in a slightly different direction, although I'll say my sister and I, while we weren't practicing immigration law, I think we do sort of follow in the footsteps in the nonprofit sector of our parents' very strong commitment to the community. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. We certainly were exposed to values and a way of being that influenced our characters, and both probably genetic and the environment and culture in which we grew up.
I'll just add to that, I'm the one child who is not an attorney in my family. And I'll echo what Claudia said, which is, our parents were always very supportive of us and allowed us to really craft our own pathways, certainly with an expectation, not just of giving our best, but also of giving to the community, I think, just as a part of our family DNA. But it was, I will say personally, I found challenges and tensions between, I'm the only one, I'm not an attorney, I'm not in a professional, pathway, I'm not, taking certain paths. And I remember one thing Dad would always very graciously offer to introduce me to people, regardless of what area I was, or pathway I was taking. So, I was interested in a pathway in education, and he was always just open to opening doors to that. There were times in my career where I didn't want that. I wanted to forge it on, I'm the third child, right? Wanted to forge it on my own, wanted to do my thing, wanted to feel like I was succeeding in my own right. And, the universe, often comes back and brings you both opportunities and lessons. And it's been really fun for me. As Claudia mentioned, we're both a nonprofit now. And, I've had the opportunity to circle back and recognize recognize just how important those networks and opportunities, the connections and the doors make in the work you're trying to do for the community. So, but yes, my parents have been wonderful both to support us and encourage us in everything we did. I actually moved to another country and started a business and did all sorts of things that I'm sure at some point my parents were wondering. But I always felt 100% supported by them. And I think that at the end of the day was the most important thing.
That's great. Thank you. When your children reflect on your family history and legacy, what message you hope our young people here, students, to take away from the conversation today? I will just follow the children first and then you, Harry.
Yeah, at the sake of being a little bit repetitive, we are certainly very proud of all of the ways that my father and our family has tried to break down boundaries and connect across communities and open doors for other people. So I think that generosity of spirit and encouragement for the community and reaching down for those who have less, that is what I hope is a strong legacy that our family lives behind. I really think sort of to a person, when I tell people who my father is, they sort of light up with joy and admiration and can recall a moment when my father really reached out and helped someone. And I will get emotional about it because it's something that I'm very proud of. But recently, one example, I encountered a very successful female attorney, and we came across one another in a world completely separate from the law. But she told me that when she was a baby attorney and she was a trailblazer as a female attorney in a time when women were not respected in the profession, and she was, carrying the briefcases of these senior lawyers and doing all the grunt work. She recalled very distinctly how my father treated her with kindness and with respect, and that he really valued her in a moment when everyone around her sent her signals that she did not belong, that she was not capable, that she would never be. And that was so meaningful to her that, it was probably 30, 40 years later when I encountered her, that she held that in her heart. And that was the first thing that she wanted to tell me when we really got to know each other. And I think that truly is the legacy that I hope that we have inherited and that we can carry on, and that people will remember these small moments that we cared about somebody, that we believed in somebody. The phrase that my dad always said to us when we were kids, before anything challenging, a test, a sports competition, a musical performance, or the first day of something, he would always say to us, "Go get him, Tiger." And he would say it with this big smile, with full confidence that whatever challenge we were facing, he knew that we were going to embrace it, that we were going to step up, that we were going to give it our best. And that was more important than the success or failure, although we certainly hoped for success. And I think that encouragement of other people's, that optimism and belief in others and success, and that generosity of spirit is the legacy that I have seen that others have taken from my father, that I hope that I can, those are the big shoes to fill and to live up to, and that's the legacy that I hope our family can leave behind.
Yeah, I just got a short one because that's pretty comprehensive. Yeah, take those examples, meet out with people. It's opportunities that you'll have later on because you've done things, because you've showed what you can do, showed who you are. They do come back. So try and make as many of those as you can, and just keep working on it.
I guess just to add to that, Dad has a great love for life and for people, right? And I think being able to see that fullness on top of, he's always puts family, as a priority. He cares deeply about community. He's looking to serve others. And I think that legacy of living in some ways a selfless life, but one that, really creates such meaning and purpose for one and for their family and community has been something really beautiful that we've all been blessed to be a part of.
He's so touched and thrilled to see your children carry your soul and heart and legacy. So Harry, what encouragement you want to tell our generations to carry on?
Well, the information that I would share with students is that he who perseveres prevails, that frequently it's a matter of continuing to pursue some particular option or opportunity. It doesn't always come easy, but perseverance. The other thing is preparation. One of the things I found out is that when I was practicing before the courts in Austin or the courts in Houston, had to know our stuff. We need to be cognizant and aware of all the court cases, the precedents, the rules and regulations that were germane to the particular issue that we were trying to articulate. And frequently we were able to go ahead and utilize that to our advantage. We felt that many times the opposition was not as well prepared in doing their homework and doing their research and getting the information prepared and ready to go. The other thing that I've felt was an important aspect of my law practice was that we tried to be cognizant of our clients' circumstance. Their concerns, try to allay their apprehensions, and try to make sure that they got a fair understanding. One of the things that we endeavored to do is that give them the feeling of potential success. It's a challenge because many of the situations you're working with very adverse facts or circumstances, and yet I found that even though complicated circumstances sometimes can be resolved favorably, and making sure our clients understood that, I would generally give them an estimate of the probabilities of success. And I felt if they had an 80 or 85% chance, that was really almost a guarantee that they would be successful. But we've had clients that we told them their cases were no better than 15%. And to my surprise, that client retained our services. And when I succeeded in helping a truck driver immigrate to the United States, I asked him, why did he go forward with it when I had such a low probability of success? And he was saying that we had represented his cousin and gave her a 35% chance of success, and we succeeded, and so he was very comfortable. And the truth of the matter is that he had more comfort than I did in handling that particular case. So, yes, it's a matter of being well prepared, having some concern for your client's welfare and best interest, and persevering.
Thank you so much, Harry. Just a little bit of background that we planned this event over a month ago, and the last week of April, finally we reached Harry, and because the week before we talked, he had a heart attack the end of April. So I said, Harry, we can wait. Next year we can do it. He said, no, I don't want to wait. I want to do it. So you see his passion, his dedication never fade, and from his children the same. So we're so thrilled, so honored, and privileged to have you all. So I want to give acknowledgement of other G members today here. So Lindsay, Linda, can you stand up and let people see that the other G members here?
And Julia.
Who else? Yeah. Oh yeah. Julia G. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us and share the legacy of the family. So I would like to give the time to the Q&A and to audience to question or a comment. question or comment? Lindsay?
Hello, family. Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay G. Calvert. While we are not blood relatives to this phenomenal side of our G family, we are part of a larger G family community here in Houston. So thank you, Nancy, for showcasing some of our stories from our wide G family community here in Houston. And thanks to Rice University and the Houston Asian American Archives for recording several of our stories in our family history. I wanted to indicate a couple of personal reasons why I also look up to Harry. While we don't see each other frequently, we're not direct family, he certainly has been a pillar of our community in many ways expressed here. For me personally, through my education and professionally, I know Harry as someone who has contributed to international education. I work for the Institute of International Education for the last 20 years, and that is where we've seen a great deal of support from Harry in not only the Houston community, but beyond. So I wanted to ask you more about your passions for building the international connections to the Houston community. Thank you.
I've always felt that we had a blessing in the opportunity to share our culture and background. So I've participated with other international organizations such as the Sister Cities International, the Houston Taipei Society, and various organizations. The perspective, I think, is more profound if you have an understanding, and that, I think, is what is a challenge to all of us, to go ahead and share with people around the world our perspectives and our cultural backgrounds and circumstances. When we've done that, I think that they have a better understanding of many of the particular situations. One instance that I would share with you in this regard, it was in our own family. It turns out that one time we came back from a golf outing and we had some friends that were visiting, and I asked my wife to go ahead and get them something to drink, and I had to go clean up a little bit. I came back and they didn't have anything to drink, and I asked my wife, I said, Antje, why didn't we have something for these people to drink? And she says, well, I offered it to them, and they said they didn't want it. I said, Antje, the Chinese, even if they were just dying of thirst, if you offered them something, they'd tell you no, that they wouldn't take it. You have to impose it upon them. You have to give it and make them take it. And she says, that's stupid. So I think that my wife learned some of our Chinese culture on that occasion, and I think that each of us shared our experiences more expansively thereafter.
Yeah, Ping.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you all so much for sharing. I love it when you tell the kids, go Tigers. If you had known, you probably would have said, go Owls. And I want to say thank you for your contribution and all you've done at Rice University. You're not only sending 3 children there, but you yourself have been holding a leadership role with the alumni associations, and so thank you all so much. So thank you.
Thank you, Ping.
And I just want to say, while we are very proud of being Rice alumni, we are also very proud that our parents have supported UHD as well as UT and many other educational institutions. If you can name an educational institution, Houston Community College, which now is Houston City College. Anyway, a number of educational opportunities. So we are proud of Rice and proud to support education broadly.
So hello, everyone. Hi, Harry. It has been years since I've seen you, and I also want to thank my fellow previous board member from the Center for Houston's Future for telling me that they were honoring you today. It's great to see your family. My name is Central Reed, and I had the pleasure of meeting Harry in 2019 when we were both being honored at the Global 7 Awards, and I had the opportunity to come to your office and interview you as well. We went to lunch a couple of times, and there's a story that I was reminded of as I'm going through a lot of personal loss over the last 12 months, lost a lot of family members, and I remember when I was coming to your office to interview you, you called a few hours before we were to start, and you said, do you mind us postponing the interview because you had lost a family member? And I said, sure. I absolutely understand. When would you like to do it? And you said, give me 2 hours. And I was like, oh, okay. So we pushed the interview 2 hours, and I came in, and you told me, because I was thinking that you were really going to push it like a week or two or something more, and you said you like to keep your commitments. And I thought that was so interesting. I've never seen anything like that, and it makes me emotional just thinking about it because I know we all have to take personal time when we lose loved ones, yet it was a lesson that stuck with me, that even though life is happening, that you still should keep your commitments, and I thank you for that.
Captain?
Yeah, just want to make comment. Well, first I want to say go Tiger because my daughter just graduated from LSU. So, but on a serious note, I always enjoy go to this series here. Actually, this is my first time, even though I was adjunct faculty here since 2011, but the first time I go to this President series. So I really appreciate the opportunity and to see the trailblazer story from Mr. Henry G. is very inspiring, especially for me as a first generation immigrant from Vietnam. And this helped to broaden my perspective on human relationship, including the fact that we went to the Holocaust Museum a few weeks ago about a story on how the Japanese diplomat and the Chinese diplomat helped out with the Holocaust victim. So this story inspired me to make me feel that there are trailblazers before, including Dr. Martin Luther King. He actually opened up the civil rights movement and have everybody being treated equal. So Mr. Harry Gee, thank you for being a trailblazer, opened up the opportunity for the Asian American here in the US. Thank you.
Thank you. The G family's history is deeply woven into the history of Houston and beyond. And through resilience, unity, service, and generosity, the family has shown us how one family's journey can inspire and uplift an entire community. So in closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank so much the UH Downtown again, the President, John, hard work, and the American leadership, Donaco and Nori, to make this opportunity that celebrate AAPI Heritage month of May and honor the history we shared and continue to shape the future together. So once again, join me to thank Harry and then the remarkable children again. Thank you so much.
So folks, let's give one more round of applause to Nancy Lee and of course the G family. I think I broke the mic too. I don't know what's going on here. So, but anyway, again, to Mr. G, it's a pleasure and honor to have you again here at our campus in Mr. G also has a scholarship with us here at UHD. So the giving doesn't just stop at Rice. You know, we really appreciate all the contributions you made across our city and a great community. So again, thank you. But to the children, I know your dad and your mom must be so proud of you all, and we thank you for being here with us and sharing your stories. You know, we just sat here and just could listen all day to everything you all had to say. But again, thank you so much. This is a great example of our leadership or our lecture series, where we not only tell stories of our alumni or business thoughts or the new breakthroughs for Earth Month or whatever is the newest trends, but we also take our Heritage Months very seriously here, and we do want to share our stories. So again, we can't thank you enough. But again, thank you to the American Leadership Forum. And of course, Donna Cole, we said a lot of great things about you before you got here. So again, Donna, thank you so much. So this concludes our lecture series for today. Again, please feel free to continue to network here. And again, our apologies for the traffic. That was out of our control. But we all made it here, and we wish you nothing but a safe and great rest of the day. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.